Hello and welcome again to a new episode of Marketing Buzz Down Under. As always, I'm your host LJ, and today I have a new look with short hair. So if you have been watching the show, you can actually know that I had long curly hair and I just went crazy and I cut it pixie hair. So thanks a lot to Delilah, so Adrian from Delilah, because he helped me with this new look. Back to marketing. So today I have a beautiful guest. She is one of my favorite people. We have hours of conversations every single day. We work in the same workplace. And I am so honored that she agreed to record this episode with me. Hello, Miriam. How are you?
Hi. No one calls me Miriam. Hi. Yep.
So a little bit about you. Miriam is actually a PR powerhouse. She is in the business of building trust, credibility, and helping her clients be seen as an authority in their industry, which we all know as business owners is very important. She is a true expert in the strategic use of media storytelling. Her agency, Press Run, is renowned for crafting integrated marketing campaigns that have placed clients in global media across Asia, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. She has over 10 years of experience and has helped 300 clients, including companies, students, entrepreneurs, master their storytelling and take charge of their legacy. She was born in the Philippines, raised in Australia, and she has recently returned to Melbourne after a stint in Singapore. Miriam, or what I like to call her Miri. She has a multicultural journey, and her understanding of diverse markets and cultures is out of this world. So again, thank you so much, Miri, for being today here with us. How are you this morning? It's a beautiful day in Melbourne.
You know what? I'm good today. I think every day is different, but lately I've been really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love what you post on your social media, on your Instagram. So we will definitely make sure that we mention you and all your social media handles.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so PR. I know a lot of businesses, they are just thinking PR for a small business. What? Isn't it like expensive? Isn't it just for big businesses? And I was one of those people that I was like, oh, really? Can I, with my size, actually do PR? So I guess when I met you, that was what I learned, that actually small businesses do benefit from PR activities. So can you tell us more about that aspect and how well does it go with marketing and sales?
Yep, sure. So public relations, I think, is one of those spaces within marketing, communications, social, that a lot of businesses do need, but they're unaware of what the benefits are. They're unaware of how to do it. Or they have this skewed view that if you have someone that's doing public relations for you, you need to be a 6, 7, 8 figure, right? But a lot of the people that I teach, they're actually students, they're new entrepreneurs. Some of them are professionals that have worked a very colorful career but are looking to branch out and do their own thing. And what I teach them is that it's accessible. It's something that you can do yourself. It's just a matter of understanding how the news media industry works, understanding who you are, which is a very big topic that maybe we can discuss later on, and also understanding how you can actually communicate your messages, your profile, what it is that you're doing to either opportunities, other companies, or the media in order for you to be able to sell, whatever message or whatever it is that you're doing. That is essentially what public relations is. Yeah. But I think there's this misconstrued view of what PR is. They think it's only focused on media, news articles, being seen on TV, being on the radio, but actually every single thing that you do, the way that you interact with people, the way that you relay your feedback, the way that you enter a room, how you dress, your tonality when you're speaking on the phone, that is all essentially a form of your reputation. And that in itself is what public relations is in practice from an individual personal branding perspective.
That's very interesting, because the first time I talked to someone after I started my business, and they were in PR anyway, and they were like, do you have a compelling story? Why would people want to write about you? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. No, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the Middle East, so I don't know if that's exciting enough. But the way that you talk about PR makes it sound more, as a business owner myself, I genuinely use my name as my brand a lot.
Yeah.
And it actually, and at the start of my journey as well, I read, more from Simon Sinek, and he always asked about the why. And I never really understood. I'm like, oh my God, what is the why? I don't know why I'm starting this business. I just want to help people. But I never understood my why until I literally understood what I wanted.
Yeah.
And what was the reason why I was doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
To help clients. So does that also fit within the PR look and feel if I include it into my communication?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question that you asked earlier was, what is your story? What did she say? Compelling.
Yeah, compelling.
Compelling. And so it's interesting because a lot of people, everyone has a story. We're living in our own story right now. You have the story that you tell yourself about how your world is. That person interacted with me, therefore they think X, Y, and Z, or that person said this, and therefore that means this. There are these stories. There are our own perceptions of our own reality that we experience and that we live in. But when someone asks you what's your story, I think a lot of people forget that not only are we living and breathing in our own story, but there's also the story that we are able to share with the world, right? And so thinking about storytelling, you've got to think about who am I? What are my key messages? What do I want to be known for? And how do I want to be perceived with the rest of the world, right? So I think your question was about communication in business.
Correct.
And in social. For you, I've known you for a bit of time now. You're very lovely, great to work with. And, you've got a strong personal brand. You come across as someone who's very intelligent. You've got a lot of experience. You've got a global experience like me, which is why, we have something in common. And I think that is something that you can definitely weave into your own storytelling of of why people should work with you. I'm LJ. I'm a co-founder. I'm the founder of... Are you co-founder?
Co-founder, yeah.
Okay, I'm co-founder. Sorry to the other co-founder. I'm a co-founder of MobiWeb. I've spent some time in Dubai. I've worked on, global campaigns, and I use my global experience to help my clients do digital marketing and also, use marketing as a tool to share their story and their achievements and, build that reputation so people can work with them. Right?
Yeah.
How powerful does that sound? I mean,
it's just... That's fascinating. Now I'm thinking, oh my God, I am important.
Yeah, you are. You have to own it. And I think people I guess it's maybe it's a cultural thing, but sometimes people, they underestimate just how powerful they really are. Yeah. And it's not just the stories that you tell yourself. It's that, and it's that because it's important that you own your story, but it's also taking accountability for the story that you want to tell people. Just because someone may have, and let's be real, people come from all walks of life. Yeah. People have different upbringing. You might have come from commission housing. You might have, fortunately been born with parents that have organized a trust for you growing up. You might be a family, and a lot of Asian community in Melbourne, in Australia have experienced this. You might have migrated from unfortunate circumstances that have allowed you to then build a life that you and your family will be proud of. And so that's the kind of storytelling that you got to think about. But then you got to think about, what do I want to tell people? That may be where I started, but that's not where you finish. And you got to think about, what is the story that I want to tell people? And the thing about personal branding and PR is, a lot of the content that we see online talks about how to do certain things. Yes. There's a lot of experts on social, and personally, I think that you're not an expert until you have at least 7 years experience on something. Yeah, I agree. That's just kind of my personal view. Okay, don't come at me. But I also believe that our personal stories are important because they are what sets us apart from other people. And if you own your personal story, you use it in a way that allows you to champion the things that you want to be seen as an expert on, then that's your competitive edge. That's how you're going to be able to stand out. And using that is important because no one else is like you. You know, you're an individual. So, yeah.
Which is amazing, because that was my next question to you. One of the things that I faced when I started the business with my co-founder was, okay, how do we differentiate ourselves? We are the boutique small agency from the bigger agencies that have lots of account managers, big technical teams.
Yeah.
How can we tell the story? How would our PR help us as a small business be out there and convince our clients that we are as good, even probably better than those big agencies? Just because, you know, when you're a small business, any client is your client. Whereas with bigger agencies, sometimes clients become numbers just because there are a few clients.
Yes.
So how does PR help you as a small business to stand out, strategize yourself, and strategize your communication?
Yeah, sure. So as a small business, I think, you know, if we use you as an example, I believe that it's important to own your story. You know, what might help you stand out outside of all the other digital marketing agencies that people can work with is the fact that it's your high level of customer service. So I've seen you work.
Yeah.
I know that you provide a lot of value. You are very strategic, and you're also very well-rounded, well-spoken. And I think that comes from the fact that you're a global citizen, right? You haven't always lived in Australia. You've worked in various parts of the world.
Correct.
Which means that your exposure to different ways of life, different people, has informed the way that you work with people, right? And it's informed your upbringing. And I think bringing that into your storytelling and how you could market yourself against other agencies is important, because you're showing that not only have you got this, you know, global outlook, global experience, but you've worked on campaigns that may be relevant to the Australian market because for whatever reason they just haven't tapped into this specific way of working because no one has championed that. There are some ways that you could run campaigns the way that people do in Dubai. For example, because I know you've lived in Dubai.
That's
right.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that's your competitive edge. And if you're able to implement, you know, personalizing the experience, as well as allowing people to learn more about you as a person, because I truly believe what makes people attractive, or what makes people marketable, or what draws us to one another is our humanity. And if you add an element of humanity, you know, you talk about your journey or the things that you're passionate about, the right people will gravitate towards you because you are presenting yourself as someone who's genuine. You are talking about the things that light you up. So naturally, when people are happy, they attract happier people. And that in itself will set you in a completely different playing field to other agencies here. Does that answer your question?
Oh, very much so, because although this is an example, but I'm sure everyone who's listening is thinking about their story. And that's the thing. That's why we need someone like you in any business, because
Thank you.
As you said, we as humans, we kind of tend to forget who we are, what our stories are, and we're just, you know, so busy with our daily lives, so we forget, and we probably don't see that. Like you need someone like you to come in and talk to the person and be like, all right, this is what you have and this is what you should highlight. And I think that's the teaching, that's the value that you add to any business, especially for business owners or people starting their businesses. You doubt every single decision you make.
Oh that definitely is something that everyone goes through, imposter syndrome.
Correct.
Right? You know, not being able to feel like you're worthy or you're deserving of this space. But you know, if I truly believe if it wasn't meant for you, it wouldn't exist in your mind, or if it wasn't meant for you, you wouldn't be so I guess obsessed with it. I think all business owners can agree that to some extent you have to be a little bit obsessed with your business. It's not a hobby.
Yeah.
Maybe it started off as a hobby, but when you truly are in alignment with where you are meant to be and who you're meant to be, then and it's relevant to your work, then it's just something that you always want to do, right? Always want to be, and then that's like your why factor. You know, how you do it, completely up to you. That's your why factor. Like, I just can't stop thinking about X, so I need to do X, you know? But yeah, I think business owners, everyone comes as an individual. There's a lot of different ways to tell a story. they just need to figure out who they are, which is like a very big topic. I'd love to know what you think about that. And then when you figure out who you are, then you can start to work on, shaping shaping the perception people will have of you.
100%. I mean, from a personal experience, when we started the business, I genuinely didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what made us different. You read all those books and you talk to lots of people and you're like, I'm even more confused.
You listen to all the podcasts.
All the podcasts, and then you're like, I'm even more confused. But then and that's why experience is very important.
Yeah.
After a few years running the business, you start to see it yourself.
Yeah.
And when you talk to more people, especially people like yourself, you start to see that point of view that you've never seen it in yourself. And I think, and I would love to take your input as well on this, but for me, my personality shows with the way that I make sales calls.
Yeah.
So I have probably a
very
higher,
vibrant,
higher
value
conversion rate because of the way that I talk. And the reason for that is because now I know myself, now I know my strength.
Yes.
And after talking to lots of people, I know that the one thing that sells is exactly what you said. It's your personality, because people want to buy from people. Yeah. And I'm try to be super genuine all the time. Yeah. So that reflected into my numbers. And I think that's a valuable thing, because PR is probably perceived just like social media. Oh, why would I need branding? Why would I need PR? But in reality, it helps. Yeah. Doesn't it?
Yes. Awareness of who you are and your actions and the impact of your actions is important. And it's something that we already are mindful of, but maybe more on a consumer, like a personal level, but what people don't realize is that it's in everything that you do, and it's in everything. It's in how you behave. It's in how you respond to people. Like, I'll give you an example, like Google reviews. Yeah. I've got this one friend in marketing, and we always discuss some of the Google reviews that his clients receive, on their like Google profile. And then he sends me examples sometimes. He's like, what do you think about this? And so there was this one example he shared with me where it was someone's restaurant. And like, I don't know if the reviews are legitimate, but the restaurant owner, like, the example is someone said, I got food poisoning, or I didn't like this. Okay. The restaurant owner, or the person that's managing the Google profile was like, oh, but maybe you got sick before you came into the restaurant. No. Maybe you, maybe you had a big night the night before, and that's why you're sick, because you're hungover. Like, he just like sort of said all this stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really bad for his reputation. Like, as a business owner, you always want to come across as professional. You want to be high value, high service, but then if you're speaking to your customers who are giving you feedback, which they're more than entitled to do, by the way, it does put you in a position where you're showing your I'd say your true colors.
Showing attitude.
Showing your true colors. We will not call it attitude. And it doesn't make you look like a approachable.
That's correct.
Like a great business owner or a restaurant that I would want to speak like eat at. So yeah.
That's true.
Note to anyone that's listening: Google reviews equals form of PR. Please be mindful of how you respond. Yeah,
that's actually true. And that's the other thing that a lot of businesses struggle with, which is Google reviews. There are some people that, especially when I was in Dubai, I worked for a food and beverage company handling their social media at the time, and hangry people, like, honestly, they are the worst.
I do love reading them.
I love reading them, but then I learned while dealing with those situations that it's exactly what you said. It's how you respond. And even if, as a consumer, when I go to Google reviews, because I'm mindful of that, now I look at various reviews and I check how the restaurant manager responded to those reviews. If they were exactly what you said, showing their true colors, that's when I'm like, maybe this review was valid. But then when they say, look, why don't you respond to us? So whether it was a restaurant or even a GP or a clinic or any industry or even a tradie, and you see that level of professionalism that they're responding to you, and they're saying, okay, give me your number, and you don't see anything down the thread, I know this is a good place and I will go to it regardless. Which I guess, but that's the thing, we don't see it as part of the PR
process. Everything is PR.
Correct.
People don't realize that. But so anyone that is feedback is such an important part of public relations. I put a post up the other day, and I was like, I drew this, like, every time I teach my masterclass on like how to elevate your personal brand, take charge of your reputation using PR. I drew this. I always draw this the feedback loop. Okay.
Oh, I saw that, and
see
I was
it?
like,
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
I don't know.
You're like, what's
Tell
this?
me more.
I
Yeah,
I
tell
did a
me
poll.
more.
I'm like, does anyone know what this is? And everyone that responded was like, no.
No.
I'm like, oh, this is juicy. But also, it's an issue if you don't realize what the figure is. And maybe my drawing is not that great. You know, my artistic level is Canva and stick figure drawing. But it's important. So the drawing that I made, I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe share it as a post and people can go see it there.
But it was like it's a feedback loop. So we talk about how there's always a sender and a receiver, the person that's going to send a message, right? In a business context, this could be you and I in our agencies. This could be a leader in a business, and then there's always the receiver. Now, the receiver is like the if you're a business leader, it could be your staff, your stakeholders. Okay, if you're in marketing, it could be whoever your client is looking to target. Right. If you're in public relations, so that's why it's called target market. In public relations, we call it target public. Or target community. But essentially, it's a group of people that have similar interests, and you're wanting to relay a specific message to them in hopes that they understand. Okay. Now, the reason why, but most people, like, I guess generally people always see, oh, I'm going to send this message, or I'm going to share this message, or I'm going to email this. And so there's this view that the loop goes one way, but actually it goes two ways, right? Because the second part to it is feedback, and that is essentially what public relations focuses on. Okay, and it's important to understand that as you go through the loop, so you've got the sender, the receiver, you've got the message, the delivery, so things, and we talked about this, like tonality of your voice, the medium, which is the type of way that you share this message, email, video piece of content, in person, at a keynote, on a panel, on TV, on the radio, like all these different ways of you can communicate the message. You have to be mindful of all this, because if you're, let's say, for example, I'm a business leader. I work for a financial institution, and I want to share that we are going through redundancies. Okay, like the company's having we're having a organizational restructure. Most financial institutions in the world do this every 3 years when they have a new leader that comes into the business, right? And so how you relay that message is important, because it's impacting your target market or your audience in a specific way. It's their livelihood that's going to be impacted. It's the way that they spend their time, the way that they make money. And so that message needs to be relayed in a very mindful way, inclusive way, I'd say. And also you have to give them the opportunity or the space to be able to provide their feedback, because how do you know if the message that you sent is actually being received? And that's essentially what public relations focuses on, and essentially what a lot of business owners should focus on as well, or at least try and implement in their communication structure, because the feedback is really important. You need to understand whether or not your message was received, if it was received in the best way possible, and what they actually are saying. If it's negative feedback, that's okay, but at least they're providing you with feedback. And if it's negative feedback and it doesn't actually allow you to achieve your original objective, which is trying to get 2 or 3 key points across, then your way of communicating needs to be adjusted.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And that can be highlighted as well in, your social media communication with clients.
Yeah.
If it's not an internal corporate, for example, communication, it can be, which is one of the things that I really struggle with. Actually, feedback is I think all business owners, we should send surveys to our clients, and then just get their feedback, because that will help with the communication and the kind of topics that they probably want to hear about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe if you want a fruitful relationship, oh my God, giving relationship advice. This applies to all relationships. I'm not a relationship guru, but it's important to have that open communication to know whether or not the relationship is working, right? And you have to be open to and not defensive with whatever the feedback is given to you, because everyone is entitled to their own opinion. They have their own way of experiencing life, and they have their own views, and they're allowed to give you feedback. And the same thing applies for your working relationships, you know, and this is one of the things that I actually have with my clients, and I'm really appreciative of this, and I really love that they're honest with me. Sometimes the feedback isn't great. Sometimes the feedback is incredible. It's awesome. But, you know, we will not be able to work in the best way possible if we don't have that open communication.
That's correct.
And, you know, especially if we're trying to, you know, accomplish a campaign, or we're trying to launch something, it's important that we are on the same page with what our plans and our objectives are. And so we're in this like kind of team dynamic, as opposed to me trying to work with you, not understanding how this is working or it's not working, instead of and us collectively, individually, instead of a team, trying to work out how to make the campaign work. Does that make sense?
Oh, total sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is, how can you measure the success of your PR activities? I mean, I think that's a very important question for business owners, because I do get asked on a weekly basis from my coach, all right, what's your return on investment on those activities? Or we look at how the trajectory is going. Is it going upwards or is it going down? So how, from your point of view, how do you see it? How do you measure it?
PR metrics?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways. So the traditional way is to see, you know, how many views, how many eyeballs did we have across our news articles that were published, how many people actually tuned in when that in that segment during the breakfast show when my client was on set, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at our social numbers when we shared this. You know, what are the numbers? What does it look like? So there's the numbers factor, but then there's also I'd say this is something that you can't actually quantify, and that's the quality of the feedback that you get, right? And you get feedback all the time. Let's say there's the social aspects, or there's the engagement, there's the metrics, there's the impressions that you get, there's the viewership that we have with our news articles. Okay, then there's also the way that people engage with us differently. Yeah. Okay. And so feedback is important. I highly recommend that you consider feedback every quarter. If you're trying to change workplace culture, you know, like workplace environment culture. We're talking about this morning. It's important that you ask for feedback, not just when something's happened, but ongoing, or you provide a safe space so people can give you that feedback. And so I guess it's kind of, you know, there's that metric side, but then there's also the culture in the workplace, in your community. You'll notice when someone's behavior changes towards you. Yeah. You'll definitely notice. You'll notice the way their energy is around you. You'll notice the way that they interact with you. And the same thing goes for campaigns. If you're a high-profile makeup brand, you've released a new product, I'm hoping before you launch the product, you've done some testing to make sure that the quality of the product is to your standard, but also your actual product is something that your customers might want before you launch, right? And so it's important that after you launch, you also ask for feedback, you know, or you do like a beta launch where you select a number of people, seek their perspectives on it, you know, a few focus groups, and then you do the master launch. Feedback is always something that you should consider in every step of your, I guess, campaign or your work environment, or every single setting possible, because you won't know if the quality of your service, the way that you're being interacted with, or the way that you're being accepted into specific environments is what you are actually trying to achieve unless you get feedback from people.
That's 100% correct. Yeah. And it's always so hard. I need to work with you on that in particular, asking for feedback.
Yeah.
So I guess I have one last question. I can't believe that it's
really?
been this long. I know, this is very engaging. we do. But I guess, you know, you and I are, I will say young. I know you're young. I'm still fairly young, I hope. But you know,
only as young as you feel. I feel
exactly.
young.
I feel 18.
Okay.
But I guess business ownership is hard. Running a business is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say it's easy. We all did it. It's actually challenging, and it's constant work and consistency and doing all the things that we talked about and more. I guess, what would be your advice for business owners from your point of view as a business owner yourself and as someone in PR and in communication and in the marketing space? What is your advice to them and in general, and especially if they are women as well in particular? Because, for me, it's a male dominant industry that I'm operating in. And I see, although it's on the rise, I see a lot of business women, starting their own businesses, succeeding, and I feel so happy to see that, just for both, males and females. But I guess, what would be your advice to those people?
How much time do we have?
Oh, heaps. Maybe to your top 3.
Okay, all right. Advice to business owners that are trying to disrupt their space from a marketing PS perspective. When you are lying on your deathbed, hypothetically, okay,
that's deep.
You'll want to like, and this is something I take my clients through. Like, when you're lying, this is what I say to them: when you're lying on your deathbed and you're looking back on the big glorious life that you've lived, what are you known for?
Wow.
What is the legacy that you've left behind?
Oh my God,
tell me 3 things. Will people remember you as someone that was kind? Will people remember you as someone that was that created a product that revolutionized that industry? Will people remember you as someone that created, wrote a book that changed the lives of people? So these are some of the things that I ask them, understanding what it is that you actually want to leave behind in that world. And that also helps you, and this is a very shortcut way of saying it, but this also helps you figure out what are your content focuses. Now, your identity will change over time, but the things that you generally want to be renowned for generally will stay the same, right?
Yeah.
So figure out what that is. Look at it at that deeper level, because that will help you develop your purpose. That will help you understand your purpose, your why, and then that'll inform your content pillars, and that'll inform the way that you show up moving forward. Okay. My second piece of advice is that follow up. I teach I teach this in my master classes all the time. We live in a digital age where the attention span of people has become increasingly less and less, and it's due to the fact that there's so much stimulation now. There's all these new apps. We're constantly on socials. Our attention span has changed. And so sometimes when you're pitching to someone, whether it be a journalist, someone on LinkedIn, or someone that you've just done a cold reach, or you're already speaking to on email, they may not respond to you. Okay? Don't take it to heart. Yeah. My rule of thumb is to follow up 3 times.
Love it.
The reason for that is people are busy.
That's true.
Our attention span has changed. Someone could be walking to the bathroom when they're replying to you through text. Someone could be walking into a meeting. Someone could have forgotten their phone at home.
Yeah.
We have this kind of, oh no, they don't want to talk to me. Actually, you know what? Maybe they're just busy. But you won't really know that until you follow up. And also, can I just say, for anyone that wants to work with me or that asks me for something, I love it when they follow up, because it shows that they're serious.
Correct.
Yeah, it shows that you're genuinely serious about where you want to be. My advice to young women who are in business, how much time do we have?
All the time in the world.
Okay, my advice. All right, so my advice is to take up space. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have so much inside you that you can share. So many stories, so many different ways of doing things. You are built as an original. So as much as there's all these how-to pieces of content online, own your story. Use that as your superpower. Your story is your superpower. And I say take up space because, as an Asian female entrepreneur, especially someone that's trying to, create, I guess, I wouldn't say disrupt, but just kind of take up space in the media industry. When I was growing up, I didn't see anyone that looked like me in magazines. I didn't see anyone that looked like me in the kids' TV shows, and we have come a very, very long way, but we still have a long way to go. So take up space.
I love it. Such a great advice.
Yeah.
Such a great advice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Miri, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I can't believe how quickly the time flew. I'm like, wow. But thank you. Thanks a lot for all the amazing information that you shared with us. And just quickly, so you run a masterclass. Is it something that you run on a regular basis? Can someone sign up to it?
Yeah, so I'm currently partnered with education companies.
Okay.
So you can't exactly sign up just like that. But I am launching a coaching program called the As Seen In Mastermind, which is coming up in the next couple of weeks. So for anyone that is a business owner, brand manager, marketing professional, or someone that just wants to learn how they can elevate their personal brand through PR, this is something that's designed for you.
That's awesome. And you can always follow Miriam as well through her personal social media platforms and also her businesses, The Press Run.
Yes.
But we will leave all those details below. At the end, thank you so much for listening and tuning in. As always, I'm LJ, and I will see you next time.